Felixstowe Beach, meeting Will Lynch, Komodo Chili Challenge. Just for a giggle. Just for a giggle, let's get it on. Goodness, look at that. That is a stonker. Beautiful fish, absolutely beautiful. What? First one of the night. Matt had one earlier on. Just actually. 12 pound 3. What a fish. What an absolute stonking fish, eh? Beautiful.
Hello and welcome back to Addicted to Angling. As you can see yet again, I'm in the bivvy. I'm back on the club lake. Now this lake, like I told you before, it's an old estate lake. It's very old, it's full of some lovely, lovely carp. Now in another episode you saw previously, I was round in the deeper end. The weather at the minute is absolutely baking. We're entering a heat wave. And that to me signifies get in the shallows. The fish are going to be in there, it's going to be warmer, they're going to be cruising around, they're going to be picking stuff off the surface in the daytime, and in the night time they're going to drop down. That is what I hope anyway, to be honest with you. I'll show you the swim in a little while I'm fishing. It's my favourite swim on the whole lake. I've had a lot of success from this swim. So Wednesday night, I finished work, I've got a couple of days off, so what better way than to come down to the lake, wet a line and see if I can get a carp out on camera for you. I'm really hopeful for tonight. I'm using Ronnie Rigs. I'm popping it up off the bottom because there's a little layer of weed. They cut the weed recently on it. There is some sediment still on the bottom from the weed, so I decided to go on a Ronnie. I'm using my Cyprus Snacks CCBP pop-ups in 16mm. Caviar, cranberry and black pepper. It works really well on this lake. I'll go through something in a minute with the rigs. I'll also show you about boilies, because obviously I'm loose feeding boilies as well. A lot of you watching this will know what boilies are, but some of you watching this may not know what they are, so I'm going to take you through a little explanation in a little while of what boilies are. But stay tuned. Hopefully at some point in this video I will get a carp on camera for you. If not, watch the show, see what happens. Anything could happen. Stay tuned. Right, I'm just going to give you a quick little overview of my swim. This is peg 1 on the lake. It's in the shallows. If you look just over there, you've got an out of bounds area that you cannot get to. It's behind the little island. It cuts through and comes out into the other end of the lake. That is a natural causeway for the carp. I have got a bait literally just on the edge of the lilies there. That, to me, when I fish here and I put my bait down there, that is nearly always a guaranteed bite. I nearly always get my fish from that area. Now the other bit I'm fishing, if you see these lilies here, I've got another bait just on the edge of them there. I'm not casting all the way over there, I'm literally fishing there. These fish, they come round these lilies and they will cruise down here, they go down the other side, then they go around there. So if I'm not catching them there as they come through, I'm going to pick them up here on these lilies here. That is the plan. I've got, I've got boilies out there. I've got 2 rods out. Hopefully, once it gets a bit dark, the fish will start getting their heads down. They have been cruising on the top this afternoon, and I will pick one up. But we will see. It's a lovely swim. It's a lovely lake. There's been a duck swimming around with her babies. There's been a goose coming up and trying to pilfer my boilies so far as well. I don't know where he's gone. He's somewhere on the lake. And later on I'm pretty sure there'll be deer and foxes and God knows what else around. So yeah, let's hope those baits rip off in a minute. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm fishing tonight using pop-ups. Now pop-ups are a type of boilie that have cork dust added into them, gives them buoyancy within the water, it makes them float. Now if you were to cast them in, they would float on the surface, or if you were to throw them in, they would float on the surface. If you add a hook to them plus a little bit of weight underneath the hook at a certain distance, that will allow them to just sit off the bottom, wafting around above your bottom baits. Now the reason I'm using pop-ups tonight is because they have recently cut the weed in here. Now on the bottom there's a little thin layer of very silky weed. If I was to use bottom baits in here tonight, I would not have the confidence, because I would fear that even the slightest of, if say a fish picked it up, fish swelled its tail near it, the hook moved, that could go under the weed, it could go into the weed, you could get clogged up with it. Whereas using a pop-up, you're going to be sitting maybe 1 inch, 2 inches above that little layer of weed, and it's going to be wafting around, and you're a lot less likely to get caught within the weed. Now like I say, the rig I've gone for tonight is a rig called the Ronnie Rig. Now the Ronnie Rig, I absolutely love using, I really do. All it is you've got a swivel attached to a stiff boom, attached to a little bit of putty with your pop-up. Now you cast it out with the stiff boom, it will sit, it will then kick out, the putty will then lay on the bed of the lake, your pop-up will then sit like that up in the water just above the bottom of the lake. I'm scattering a lot of loose feed boilies around here. I'll say a lot, not a lot, I'm just doing a handful every now and then because of the warmer weather. I know this area has got a lot of fish in it as well. When I fish down the other end, I don't really like to feed as much. When I fish down here in the shallow area, I do put a little bit more bait in, because there is a lot of fish up this area at the minute, meaning that I'm hoping to get them on the feed. I really want to get them rocking tonight. I want to get this swim absolutely pumping. You know, I'm hoping for some fish, I really am. And like I say, that will then sit like that. Now as you can see, it's got the ring on it. This ring allows for free movement of the hook on a swivel. So if a fish comes by, say a fish picks it up, fish moves it, it's not likely to get tangled, because the stiff boom will kick it always back into place. The ring at the bottom allows for a more natural movement. And then I have my pop-up attached by a bait spike to a very aggressively curved hook. Now that hook is razor sharp. That aggressive curve, if a fish takes it, that will come up. As soon as that bait enters the mouth, that will roll over and hopefully go through the bottom lip. A lot of the fish I catch on this rig are hooked in the bottom lip. But that bit of tungsten putty, that is dark matter putty, which is, I like to use this Deception Angling dark matter putty. Very dense, it holds a lot of weight for the amount you put on there. You don't have to put too much on, and it just stops that pop-up rising off the bottom. And like I say, I have confidence within this rig every time. If a fish moves it, a fish swims by it, if a fish is feeding and knocks it out of the way, it will reset and it will sit perfectly well. I've had a lot of fish on this rig. In the winter, it's my go-to rig. I like to put a little 10mm boilie on it, and that is all I will fish in the winter, just bringing it up off the bottom, because of course in the winter as well, the leaves are falling off the trees, it's a bit windy, there's a lot more chance of stuff being blown in the lake. I like to fish pop-ups in the winter, a nice bright pop-up sitting above the bottom, just to entice the fish in a bit more, and yet again to ensure presentation, because no matter how many times I've said it, confidence in fishing is the key. If you have confidence in the rig you're using, the style, the way you're fishing, it sounds silly, but you will catch more fish. You're less likely to worry, you're less likely to bring your bait in, you're less likely to cause a lot of commotion on the water. You can just leave your rig out there and be assured that you will be fishing effectively all the time. So yeah, that is the Ronnie Rig. That's what I'm using. I'm gonna go and get something to eat. I will cook a proper dinner in a little while, and when I do, I'll put my fat boy meal for tonight on camera so I can show you actually what I'm eating. Stay tuned. Now, as I touched on earlier, I'm using pop-up hook baits tonight, which are obviously pop-up boilies. They float. Now what I'm feeding around them is I'm feeding standard boilies around the hook, bottom bait boilies so to speak, with no buoyancy in them whatsoever. Now a lot of you watching this will obviously know what a boilie is, but for those who don't, this is a boilie. Lots of different flavours, lots of different sizes. You can get big humunga chunga ones for the catfish and big carp. We can get little tiny 10mm, 8mm for if you're fishing in the winter or if you're fishing for smaller species. Now all a boilie is a powdered base mix mixed with eggs and flavourings. Mix it together, you create a lovely gloopy paste. That paste is then rolled out into whatever size boilies you want, round boilies, and it is then either boiled, hence the name boilies, or it is steamed. This obviously makes the bait go a lot harder. It creates it's like a coating around the outside, but it's not. It just makes them go harder, makes them turn them into little balls. But these little balls, they're still not rock hard, they are still very crumbly. Now, I like to split them in half. I like to crumb them up in a boilie crumb crusher. But my main thing I do, whatever type of fishing I'm doing, even if it's a pop-up, I will put a mesh stocking on the hook as I cast out with 5 to 6 boilies inside it. This will ensure that once that mesh dissolves, you know you've got hook baits around your hook. Well, not hook baits, you've got free offerings around your hook bait. You know, so the carp are coming in. Yes, I do scatter quite a few out, you know, by hand, dot them around, try and just get the fish grubbing around, nice to, you know, get them nicely moving around, get them confident in their feeding. But there'll always be that little pile together that will attract a carp, and it will be feeding away on them. Sooner or later, in amongst those baits, it's going to find your hook bait. It's going to be gone. Your line's going to melt off. You're going to be into a fish. That's the theory anyway. But that is my preferred method, and to be honest with you, it works for me. Some things may work for you that don't work for me, but that is my favourite way to fish when I go carp fishing. So yeah, like I say, fishing with a pop-up, loose feeding, small boilies around it, crushed, halved, full boilies, keep a little bit of bait going. And like I say, I do like this end of the lake this time of year, I do put a bit more bait in than I normally would, just because I know there's a lot of fish up here. I've seen a lot of fish cruising around today. There's a lot of fish up here. The areas I'm fishing, there's a lot of fish pass through. I want to get them fish feeding. I want to get them rocking. I want to keep them in my swim. I want to get that hook bait of mine taken by a carp, and I want to have a fish on the end of my line. So yeah, there you go, boilies. That is what a boilie is. If you already knew, sorry for explaining. It's a bit of a waste of your time, but if you didn't know, I hope you learned something from it. As you may have seen in some of my previous videos, I love a fat boy meal on the bank. Don't get me wrong, pot noodles, stuff like that, yes, they have their time and place, but when I come fishing, like I said before, I'm a bit of a snob. I like to cook a nice fat boy juicy meal. And in tonight's magic fat boy juicy box, we have pork, cheese and black pepper sausages, unsmoked back bacon, and of course, yet again, short tiger stick. Lovely baguette. I'm going to start cooking. I'll come back to you in a little while. I'll show you what I've created for my fat boy Matt's meal tonight on the bank. We are, look, just by magic, Matt's fat boy meal of the night. Bacon, cheese, black pepper, sausages in a big old French baguette. Oh, love it. I'm going to get stuck into this. I've had a couple of liners so far, but apart from that, it is quiet. There's bubbling going on around the swim. They are in here. It's just a case of them finding the bait, getting their heads down, and actually taking the rig. Let's see what happens. What can I say? I've just been sitting there. I've been watching some YouTube, and as I was doing it, the line absolutely melted off on that left hand rod, the one that was on top of the out of bounds area. I said that'd probably be the one to go first, and I've got one in the net. Not big, but it's a start. It's a beautiful, beautiful mirror. Lovely fish. Right, let's get her out. Let's get her washed down, and let's get some photographs and some filming done with her in the cradle. Oosha! Right, as you just saw in the net, caught one on the left-hand rod. Not a big one by any means, but still, I'm sure you'll agree, that is a beautiful little fish. Lovely little mirror. Wouldn't even like to say it's a small fish, but they do get bigger in here. But what a nice way to start the session. What a beautiful fish. There are some absolute crackers in here. I'm going to get her back. I'm not even going to bother weighing her, and we'll come back a little bit later and see if we can get some more. Well, what can I say? Morning, basically. Massive schoolboy error last night. I had that last fish, had something to eat, watched the lake for a little while, and the next thing I know, it was 1 o'clock in the morning and my right hand rod was absolutely ripping off. Hooked into it, suddenly realised that because I fell asleep early, I hadn't got anything arranged, as in my head torch out or anything like that, so I couldn't actually see what was going on. I could hear it going through the pads. Tried my best to play the fish while walking backwards to try and get my head torch, and unfortunately the hook pulled in the fish. Massive schoolboy error on my behalf. I weren't expecting to fall asleep, but I just went out like a light last night. So I reset that rod, woke up again about 4 o'clock this morning. Savage liner on the right hand rod. Nothing else came of that though, unfortunately. So I've just repositioned the right hand rod now. I've woken up. It's about 6:30 in the morning. Beautiful morning. Left hand rod hasn't done anything else, so I've crumbed up some boilie, thrown about 8 or 9 loose off room, full boilies around it, plus a handful of crumb. Right hand rod, like I say, repositioned with another little bag on, thrown some crumb boilies around that as well. So I'm hoping, with all the bubbles that I can see in the swim, fish are active, the fish's heads are down, because it's not hot yet. It's actually quite cool. So they're getting their heads down, they are feeding. You can see the bubbles, you can definitely tell it's fish because the bubbles are trailing. You can see the trail of bubbles moving on the top of the water as the fish are going through the sediment. So yeah, like I say, massive schoolboy error there. Could have had 2 if I'd have had my head torch sorted. It's just the way it goes sometimes. Like I say, I didn't realise I was going to fall asleep. But let's crack on. Let's see if we can get one out this morning before I go home. Not expecting to stay till too late. I'll probably leave here about 9 o'clock. Get home, get myself sorted, and yeah, come on the carp. Let's see if any more can find the bait and take it. Coming to about 8:30 in the morning. I'm going to start packing up in a minute. The fish are already showing on the surface. It's warming up really, really nice. I haven't got any dog biscuits or bread on me, so obviously I'm not going to do any surface fishing. I reckon it could be quite productive today though. Not even had any more liners on the rods. I did have a very big ghostie in front of me, about 2 feet from the bank, tail up. I could see the swirls. I crept over and watched it. Problem with the ghostie in here is you drop a rig anywhere near it, it is very, very spooky. So I didn't even bother reeling my rods in, so I've had to drag my lead over the top of it. That would have spooked it, it would have gone. But it was in the swim. Obviously didn't find my bait, unfortunately. The left hand rod hasn't gone anymore, which I'm very shocked about, to be honest with you. That's normally a very good spot. It was the right hand rod that's obviously produced the lost fish and the big liner last night, so they were down there. But if I get any more while I'm packing up, I'll come back on camera. Just a quick video, couple of little snippets in there of some information about how I fish. Like I say, this lake, it's not super easy. You can't come on here. It's not full of big fish. I will come back here at some point, do another video. I do like fishing here quite a bit. Next carp fishing video, I reckon I'll visit a day ticket water, try and get something bigger out on camera for you. But apart from that, like I say, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe as per usual. It just helps the channel grow. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Matt, this is Addicted to Angling, and I will see you soon.